D-Man here. Just telling you, I hope you like this video. So let's get in to the video.
Hey guys, D-Man here,
Enjoy.
and today we are doing another Netflix anime review. This time, Be the Beginning. So, this is the first season of Be the Beginning because it is left off on a cliffhanger. I watched this about a week or so ago, so I'm not going to be super remembrative of like everything. But most of the things I can remember. Excuse me for a minute as I adjust my as I adjust my earpiece. There we go. But anyways, let's get into Be the Beginning. So let's talk about it first. So there's two separate plot lines in this show. There's one about Be the killer, and then there's one about the detectives that are trying to stop him. And the two main detectives are this old guy right here and a young girl. Let's see if I can find a picture of her. Oh, right here. See, old guy and young girl right there. Those are the two detectives, and this is the killer. So two detectives and killer. um, so let's go off on the killer plot line first. So the killer plot line is an not like an average. It's kind of like an anti-hero plot line, to be more honest. He's a good guy, but yet he does evil stuff. So he's kind of like the Punisher. Uh, there's others too that do anti-hero stuff, but I'm thinking of mainly the Punisher. He kills bad guys to save people. But he has a different motive. He doesn't do it to save people. He does it to get the attention of his girlfriend right here, and she's kind of a goddess. He's kind of a god sort of thing, or maybe an angel and an angel. I didn't really get what he was. I think he's like a god-ish, and then she's like a god-ish, like a goddess and a god sort of thing. Or maybe she's like a wife to a god. I never really got that whole thing, but something like that. Anyways, we learn his identity pretty fast, like in the first episode, because we see this young man, and he can pretty much like he has like superpowers. And at first, we don't see him turn into the bee, Killer Bee, or whatever you want to call him. Not R for Naruto, not to be mistaken with Naruto, but Killer Bee. He turns into Killer Bee. Um, but we don't see that at first. We see that in the second episode, he turns into Killer Bee. But the first episode, we just see him walking on a roof and then jump down and not get hurt. So we know he has some kind of superpowers. And it's related to him being a god or an angel. I'm not sure what he was, like a god or an angel. I think they called him a god, but he looked more like an angel to me. I don't know. Um, and it kind of reminds me, like this whole anime has a very what's the anime's called? What's the anime's name again? Darker Than Black, I think it's called. It's an anime that I've watched before. It has like three seasons. The first season's the best. The second one's okay, and the third one's okay, I guess. But this anime reminds me of Darker Than Black. It really does because the main character, it just has like this dark tone to it. I don't know what it is exactly about, but it just reminds me of Darker Than Black for some reason. I'm not sure why, but it does. Even though I think Darker Than Black's a better anime to me personally, but whatever. Anyways, we get to his identity pretty fast. I guess that's part of the whole plan of the show. Obviously, they didn't want you to think who's the identity of the killer bee. There's like here's the identity, but the detectives still don't know who he is. Um, there's a part where he's fighting a girl that was his second choice of a bride. It's right here, or she loves him, I guess, but he doesn't chooses her. He chooses. He doesn't choose her, not chooses. He does not choose her. He chooses the other. He chose the other. He chose the other girl, which is this girl. He chose this girl over this girl. And as he defeats her, she gives him her leg, and it's like heavily implied that this leg is gonna come and use later. A little bit too much. It's like foreshadowing, but it's like really heavily implied. So it's a little bit too much. I have a little bit of a gripe there. It's just like, oh yeah, this leg definitely gonna come in use later because this leg can turn into a sword. Uh, Not saying it's gonna come in use, but we're just saying like it's gonna come in use because he keeps on having flashbacks of her saying like my leg might come in use and stuff like that. It's really stupid. It's just like you only need to say that once and we get it. But no, they have to like drill it into our heads a couple times. It's really stupid. Um, that's pretty much it about the villain. Well, the killer, I guess. He also has like this plot line where he's fighting against other superhumans to get his girlfriend because they stole his girlfriend and brainwashed her. And then it leads into a plot line with the detectives because the detectives. Let's go into a little bit of the detectives. So there's this old guy and young girl. Obviously, I don't really get their relationship by the end because at first it's just like senior detective and younger detective, and she kind of thinks like him, but she's not as smart as him, sort of thing. But she is as smart as him. It's kind of confusing how they say it. It's just like he's really smart, but she also is really smart, but she doesn't know how to like say the stuff that she knows, sort of thing. Um, which is weird, but whatever. So it's like this younger detective, older detective sort of thing, and I think by the end they might be a couple, but I'm not actually sure. It doesn't really say. But basically, this guy is looking for Killer Bee and also doing other detective work because there's other stuff to do, like stopping bad guys and stuff. And eventually, along the way, people start blaming him for killing somebody, even though he could have stayed. Like, because this guy and his team figured out a plot line of Bee's villains. So, Killer Bee's villains basically hacked into like the computers and stuff and had like this network where they could just spy on everybody, which is I guess could happen in real life. So he like one of the detectives figured this out, almost gets killed, goes to the hospital. Someone goes after him, and this old detective right here goes after him too, like tries to protect him. And then the guy kills himself because it's an undercover cop. It's like a cop that's bad, but he was brain controlled to be bad. So he kills himself, and the detective gets blamed, even though he could have, because he ran away from the scene of the crime. So he gets blamed for killing this cop and almost killing the other guy that was in the hospital already. Even though he could have stayed there and explained the whole thing, but he didn't. So that's kind of stupid in my head. It's just like he could have stayed there and explained what happened, but no, like just run away, I guess. Really stupid, but whatever. Um, there's stuff like that that's a little bit annoying. And then the two plot lines converge because this guy and the Killer Bee, uh, both were like with his father, sort of thing. I hope I'm not. I hope I'm making sense here, but they're both with like his father in this like institute, and it was his fault that they knew about the gods and that the tablet can predict the future and stuff like that. Like this tablet can predict the future, and the future is that Killer Bee will get killed by this tablet, and that's just gonna play out over and over again, which is kind of stupid, but whatever. And so is his girlfriend. She's also gonna get killed, or his wife, whatever you want to call her. She's also gonna get killed by his tablet because they're both gods. And this guy's basically just like, stay away from there. And this guy's like, I'm not gonna do that. I gotta go get my girlfriend. And if it happens to go there, I'm gonna go there. And lo and behold, it does. Kind of predictable. A few things in here are kind of predictable, which is annoying. Um, so that's what happens. And then their plot lines mix and stuff. And they kind of have like this semi relationship where they kind of care about each other. It's an okay relationship because we get like a few episodes of it. Um, but yeah, they have like this kind of relationship. And then the girl finds them, and the girl knows both of them because the girl has a relationship with the young man, like Killer Bee previously, and she also has a relationship with the old guy. And at the end, they might have a sexual relationship. I'm not actually sure, but whatever. But yeah, like they have a like she has a relationship with the killer bee. I don't know exactly what it is, but it sounds like they've been working together or something, or he works with her father or something like that. So it's a little bit confusing what the relationship is. I guess he's just kind of like a younger brother or something like that, or just a friend of the family. Um, and it's pretty interesting. It's a pretty interesting anime, but there are a lot of problems with it. Mostly the villains and the length of time that it had to do it. I think it's like 12 to 13 episodes, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure it's only 12, but it might be 13. And the amount of time they had with all these villains in it was kind of stupid because I feel like they just threw all these villains in there to get as much content as they can, but half of them end up just being fodder for death. It's just like, ooh, this villain looks pretty cool. She dies. This one's her sister. Maybe she'll get revenge. No, she dies. And it's just like, keep on dying, keep on dying, keep on dying. We only get like a few minutes an episode where we get to actually get to know the villains, quote unquote, I guess. And they all just die. And the only two villains that are really anything that we actually get to know more about is the long blonde haired guy, and the evil doctor guy. By the way, the evil doctor guy, as soon as you see him, you can kind of tell that he's probably the villain. He's right here, and as soon as you see him talking to this old guy, you're like, he's probably the villain. I'm sorry to say, but it was pretty simple to say, like, that guy's a villain. um, and those are the only two villains that we really get a backstory on, is the blonde guy and the doctor. But the blind guy turns out to be hypnotized by, I think it's his brother or something like that, but a guy that can control people with his eyeball, and he's right here. And he was hypnotizing the blonde guy the whole time. And here's the blonde guy, by the way. And then the brother doesn't really get that much of a backstory or anything, so it's kind of stupid. It's kind of just like, oh, okay, I guess the brother's just the puppet master. Whatever. Again, it's like they threw in all these villains, but didn't give them enough time to shine or anything. So it's kind of stupid and it kind of sucks in that sense. It's just like all these interesting villains that might be interesting, but they're like, let's only dedicate 5 minutes to a lot of them, and then throw them all away because all they are is death. Because all it is death. That's basically it. And all the detectives, the only two that we really get to know that much about is the old man and the young girl. Uh, and those are the only two that we really get to care about because all the other ones is like, give them like 3 minutes of screen time every time we show an episode with the detectives, and then screw the rest of the time. So it's just like, okay, those people don't really care, don't really matter. But I assume we're supposed to feel something when the guy almost gets killed, when one of the detectives almost get killed. But you just end up not feeling it. So all in all, it's a good anime. It has flaws, like it has too much characters and too little time to actually get to know these characters and care about these characters. Uh, the villains are just fodder for death, pretty much. So that's a big flaw on this anime. The villains just death fodder. The heroes, the good guys, we don't really get much time with them to actually know anything. That's pretty much all I can say about the good guys and villains. Um, and plus the villains were kind of obvious, and especially the old guy. The old guy was pretty obvious. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that stuff. So let's move on to the ending, which I want to talk about. The ending, it was okay for what it was. It ends on this cliffhanger where the killer and his girlfriend are maybe dead or maybe not, and the detective shoots the the doctor, shoots the evil doctor, and it kind of ends on this like thing where it's just like, is the detective gonna go to jail or what? Like, what's gonna happen, sort of thing. But then it ruins it by just showing what happens. It's just like, oh yeah, the two kids, like the two gods, I guess, they're still alive. Although he might have lost his arm. I'm not actually sure if he lost his arm or not because his arm turned into a sword and it got snapped in half. So he might have lost his arm. And the detective didn't go to jail and he got off, and now he just has this relationship with this girl. I don't know what the relationship is at the end. I think it might be romantic, but it might not be. And then it leaves on an actual cliffhanger where we see someone going like, Killer B, I'm coming after you now. Me personally, because Big Boss told me to. I forgot the Big Boss's name, but he's just like, the Big Boss told me to come after you personally. It's time we see each other again. And it's kind of stupid. It's just like, okay. It's just like, we heard about this guy a little bit. Like, there's a big boss behind all this. We only heard about him a little bit. But he's just like, yep, now he's coming for you. And we don't get any explanation why or anything. We just get cut off right there, and I'm assuming they're expecting a second season to cover this, and it's gonna be more Killer Bee related, which actually I enjoy more because the detective plotline was kind of boring, to be honest, and the Killer Bee stuff was more interesting to me. But they did more detective stuff, in my opinion. They did more detective stuff than they did Killer Bee stuff, which was stupid, but whatever. So basically, this leaves off on that plot on that cliffhanger. Um, but it does have a lot of problems. I will say that, but it does have a lot of upsides. The backstory, pretty okay. Although I didn't really enjoy Killer Bee's backstory that much, to be honest. But I enjoyed the detective, like the old guy. His sister got killed by the doctor and stuff like that. I enjoyed his backstory more than Killer Bee's backstory, but again, you get and you take, you know. But it's okay. Like the backstories are okay. The plot line is pretty okay. Just really, but it's just too much content put into 12 episodes. I'm pretty sure it's only 12 episodes. Just way too much content shoved in. And hopefully, if they do get a second season, which I probably think they will because it did really well, I think. Hopefully, the second season will have more time to do a better plot line. And here's the guy coming after the Killer Bee, by the way. At the end, the plotline twist. So all in all, it's a good anime. Way better than the one I reviewed yesterday. Um, it has some problems, as I said. Again, the villains are basically fodder for killing. Uh, too short to actually give a damn about most of the characters. And they focus a little bit too much on the detective aspect and not enough on the Killer Bee front. Uh, I would have preferred to see more about on the Killer Bee front, to be honest. And also, they ruined the cliffhanger at the end if they were dead or not. They just ruined that. There's like, they're alive, and the guy didn't go to jail, so yay, everybody wins. And then they have a lamer cliffhanger. It's just like, I'm coming after you, Killer Bee, now. It's just like, oh, we already heard about that guy. That's kind of lame. Hopefully, second season's gonna be better, and I will probably review it if it comes out because I reviewed this season. But all in all, I did like it. If I were to rate it 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, I gotta mention the gold thing first. I keep on looking at this picture. The bad guys have to drink gold because they're like not fully able to control their powers or something like that without gold. I never really got that. It's just like their powers went haywire without gold, or the gold helps them or something like that. But B is like a god, so he doesn't need the gold, I guess. But all in all, I would rate this like 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, 5 being average. This anime, it has some glaring problems, but it has a lot of good stuff about it, and it did remind me of Darker Than Black, which is probably one of my favorite animes to be honest. Um, I'm gonna say an 8. I'm gonna give it an 8. I'm being a little bit generous. I'd probably give it like a 7.5, but I'm just gonna say 8 this time, just because I want to be generous. This anime, pretty good. If you haven't watched it yet and you like anime, definitely watch it because it's way better than the garbage I reviewed yesterday. It's a pretty good anime. Anyways, that's my review. If you liked it, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And as always, my friends, stay sane.
Hey guys,
Peace.
D-Man here. Just remind you to subscribe by clicking here. It works on mobile. Or click here to watch my last video. It also works on mobile. Just remember, subscribe and stuff. Alright, bye-bye.